Well, thank you guys for joining. We will be recording the event tonight, so just make sure that you are aware of that. So my name is Matt Mitchell. I am the Prevention Services Manager with the City of Somerville. I am the lead on our SAPC grant, which is bringing you this forum tonight. Our SAPC collaborative is made up of Arlington, Cambridge, Everett, and Somerville. So you're going to be hearing from representatives of each of those communities tonight. So we welcome you. We hope you learn a lot. This forum is meant to just be an educational session to show folks a little bit of the work that we've done over the last 2+ years on this topic, as well as some underage drinking prevention issues. And we hope you find it informative and you learn a lot. So without further ado, let's get going. So I want to just do a brief welcome and introductions. I think I did see Senator DiDomenico join. Are you here, Senator? And if you want, you can say a few words to begin.
Okay, you just unmuted me. Perfect. I'll be very, very brief. Obviously, this is an issue that we're working on at the State House. The NIPS is really an issue that came to our attention just by looking around us, just by walking the streets, just by seeing all of the discarded bottles around our neighborhoods, in our parking lots, in our tree pits, in our gutters. And we are trying to be a little more conscious by getting these bottles redeemable with a deposit. So we have filed a bill at the State House to try to move the needle on that, because it's simply it's just unexplainable to me why we wouldn't add a deposit to these bottles in the name of public health and environmental issues that go along with it as well. So I have been a proponent of this for the last couple of sessions. We filed the bill. I'm also a co-sponsor of the expanded bottle bill, which also captures these containers as well. So there are a couple of different avenues that we can approach at the State House, different legislation that we can do to hopefully alleviate having these bottles and containers on our streets, and having our children picking them up, and again, creating a public health crisis, a hazard for them going forward. So the legislative fix would be to add a deposit to this and hopefully get these other streets. You don't see beer bottles and beer cans on the streets because they're redeemable. And this would be the same way we could solve this problem as well.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you joining us tonight. You guys, again, for those who are just joining, we're going to hear a little bit about our education strategies that we've learned over the last few years, and some community-based strategies that we can maybe help alleviate or address some of these concerns. So first, I just want to start with introductions again. So I already introduced myself, but I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Karen, to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Koretsky, and I am the Coalition Director of the Arlington Youth and Health Safety Coalition. I came to the coalition as a parent advisor and soon launched a student advisory, became the outreach coordinator, and eventually the director. So I'm really glad to be here.
Thank you, Karen. Next up, Deanna.
Hi everyone, my name is Deanna Wu. I'm the Youth Wellness Coordinator at the Cambridge Public Health Department. I was first the coordinator for another grant, and I have switched roles to the SAPC grant. Thank you.
We are glad to have you. Previously, Mary was joining us from Cambridge. I don't believe she can join us tonight, but she did a lot of work early on some of the a lot of this stuff. So we wanted to make sure she was included as well. Next up, Jamie.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Jamie Lederer, and I work at the Cambridge Health Alliance with a focus in our Everett community substance abuse prevention work, which I have been involved with for the past 7 years, and really appreciate this collaborative as an opportunity to leverage some of the more regional efforts that we know are impacting our communities and working together on all of this. And so for those who are familiar with Everett, I also lead the youth group TISA, which has been really instrumental in all facets of the project that we're going to be talking about tonight. And so thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. And last but not least, Lovely.
Hello, my name is Lovely Hiller-Botari, and I'm the program director with Somerville Cares About Prevention and the Prevention Services Division in the Health and Human Services Department. and I'm born and raised in Somerville, and I'm very passionate about this work for the past 17 years, and happy to have our SPF 100 youth leaders here with us today.
Yes, always great when our youth can join us, especially because they did a lot of this work themselves. So that's the team for everybody. That's who have been working on these issues for the last two plus years, as I mentioned. So we're all going to take turns talking about different aspects of the projects, and we're going to go through it. And then towards the middle end, we have some youth presentations, as well as some other community members who have been involved, adult community members who have been involved in helping to make sure that we are keeping youth underage drinking prevention work at the forefront. So for the objectives for today, we just want to share with everyone share with the community a regional approach to substance misuse prevention among youth impact. So again, this is Arlington, Cambridge, Everett, and Somerville all partnering here. We want to make sure to help people gain a better understanding of some community data collection efforts that we had done. There's several different forms in which the way we went about doing so. So we're going to highlight some of that tonight as well. We're hoping that individuals will gain more insight about our awareness campaigns for both adult and youth community members, as well as review our social media campaign that recently ran for the entire month of April in recognition of Alcohol Awareness Month. And lastly, to review just community-based strategies that we can suggest, recommend, or recommendations that came out of our data assessment collection process to address some of these concerns going forward. So definitions, just to get us all on the same page. When we refer to small alcohol bottles, we're talking about containers of alcohol that are under 100 milliliters, so often referred to as NIPs or miniatures regionally. And so why we did this, we wanted to raise awareness around the impacts related to underage drinking and limited and littered small alcohol bottles in our communities as it pertains to youth exposure. So I think a lot of the conversation has been based off of the littering and the environmental impacts and things like that. But our work always rests in the youth prevention world, and we want to make sure that we're also bringing the youth voice to it as well. So all the opinions and things that you will hear tonight are going to be youth driven and from youth themselves. So to take it through the timeline, so we started this project initially in the summer of 2018. It was right around the time I actually started. And the 4 or 5 of us got into a room, and we're like, we want to figure out a project that we can all work on across all of our cities and towns. So we're always doing youth prevention work across the 4 cities and towns, but we wanted to do one project that brought us all together. And this was something that we've been hearing a lot of feedback from community members. And we thought it was a good time to maybe get some more information about what things were actually looking like. So next step we did environmental scans. We're going to go into it a little bit more shortly, but this was us really trying to assess what things were looking like in our environments. We then did a community survey in the summer of 2019. I think this was a very successful thing that we did to get more adult community member feedback. We did an initial poster campaign and initial education sessions where we had some meetings with folks, stakeholders, as well as offered posters to community members, which we'll talk about shortly. Then this past summer, previous summer, we didn't let COVID-19 stop us in our work. We continued to gain some more data and information with a particular focus now on youth. So we did some focus groups with youth to get a better understanding of what their thoughts were on the topic. Then once we got all this data, we had to put it together into some type of a campaign so that we can deliver it to people in a digestible way. So we took time. We had youth refine it, look at it, edit it, give us brutal, hard feedback because, our words are not the way that they think of things. And they gave us great feedback in how we can make this much more appealing from a youth perspective. And then this past spring, April, just past month, we launched it on Instagram, where we had daily posts essentially talking about some of these things. So we're going to actually be able to see some of those as we get later into the presentation. And now I'll turn it over to Jamie to talk a little bit more about the data collection process.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And this, I think this is a really fun part of our project. So when we launched it, it was really inspired by seeing these bottles everywhere, nips on the streets and sidewalks, playgrounds, parking lots, in order to really get a sense of youth exposure and identify where this was happening. We really needed to document and set out and collect the data. And so this is where we started to really engage the youth by taking photos in our communities to really say, where are you traveling? Where do you see them? And each photo was then tracked, and we mapped them where they were found. And also we documented the brands at the time, trying to get a sense of, did it matter, or the particular brands also that were more likely to be exposed to young people. And so we tried to see if there were clusters in particular locations, as well if they were in youth-friendly locations like parks and playgrounds, near schools, or even, on school grounds. And we quickly learned that the bottles were just everywhere. Anywhere they went. Teens went especially, on the way to school, walking in the neighborhood. And they really were instrumental in helping collect and document so that we were able to then begin asking, why is this allowed? The youth really shared with us, their eyes were opened, realizing how at such a young age, the appearance of nips was so normal that they almost didn't even notice that they were there. So we'll hear from some of the youth later a little bit more about this. So yeah, we can go to the next slide. And so in addition, we wanted to also hear from other voices in the community. And so we created a community survey and really quickly received an incredible response in such a short amount of time. We released the survey on social media and emailed it to community partners. We also had the survey at various community events in paper format, remember that. And so the survey was available in several languages. We got responses from all languages and from all of our communities, really strong response. And we wanted to also know, what did the family structure look like? Where did they see NIPS? What was their perspective on it, as well as ask for input and recommendations on how to address this issue, which also included what is your priority in addressing this issue? Why does this interest you? And in the community, really, the alcohol exposure, the environmental impact, and so on. And so our goal was really to engage a range of voices as part of our data collection. And some we reached out to directly, particularly through the youth groups that we work with out of our own programs. We launched our social media page on Instagram and began documenting our data collection, which also generated a lot of interest from a range of stakeholders. We had youth leaders from all communities engaged, from TISA, from SPF in Somerville, from the coalition in Arlington, and through different partners in Cambridge. And we also held a stakeholder forum for liquor store owners in Somerville. We met with a recycling director in Cambridge and really engaged parents and adults through the surveys, through meetings and other events. Environmentalists, joined our cause quite easily through community cleanups that were happening. And then of course, also our awareness campaigns engaged folks through social media. We also discussed this topic with local and state leaders. We knew that this was a hot topic on city council agendas, whether they were in our particular communities or others. This was definitely getting a lot of attention at the same time as we launched this. And we did meet with Senator DiDomenico's office to provide some education on what we were able to find. And so we wanted to share a little bit of some of the results from the community surveys. Nothing too detailed, of course, but really the majority of respondents, reported littering of small alcohol bottles as something that their communities should address. People had different ways of addressing that, which we'll identify in just a moment. And half of the respondents said that they noticed these small alcohol bottles littered, often or very often in the community. And the top 3 reported concerns related to this were littering, youth exposure, and public intoxication. And then the top 3 reported reasons why individuals purchase them. They're cheap, they're inexpensive, they're easy to transport, and they're easy to consume. And then also the primary top 3 reasons individuals reported primarily seeing miniatures in the community included, streets and sidewalks, maybe biking and walking paths. That was very high. 80% people said that's definitely where they saw that. And then 50% reported in the parks and playgrounds or fields, and then public transportation, including, bus stops and places that people might be waiting for the bus or train. And then we also asked, what could be done? What recommendations or ideas do you have? And most people agree that something should be done. A lot of people proposed some sort of ban. A lot of people also discussed different methods around trash disposal, and then also there were some recommendations around a bottle deposit. And is there one more? Is that it? Yeah. So thank you.
Now we'll turn it over to Karen.
Okay, so we identified the problem. We collected data first, then we identified some issues. We, as Jamie said, we received community feedback and sort of were able to gauge the concerns. So then our next step was to raise awareness that we were working on this project and sort of about our cohort. So we came up with what we thought was this very clever moniker. We started calling ourselves the PreventionACES. A is for Arlington, C for Cambridge, E for Everett, S for Somerville. And then we came up with the hashtag #NipIt. And so we knew that we were going to use that on social media and maybe include some of the mapping photographs of the locations that showed the discarded bottles. And we created this poster in collaboration with the print shop, I believe, in Somerville, which was nice. And we used this opportunity in creating this poster to engage with our stakeholders, some being the liquor stores and other businesses in the community. So we then went to these stores, asked them to display this in their window. We had some palm cards made or sort of large postcards and asked those to be displayed at the cash register. So any consumers of these, when they made a purchase, might think about how they're going to dispose of it when they're done. And then, of course, as you can see in the blue block, we're making connections to exposure to youth and the locations of where these are commonly found. And I guess the last detail is that we tried to be inclusive and make sure that we included this in the many languages that are spoken in our respective communities.
Thank you, Karen. And so after that, once we kind of got the community survey and the posters out there, we started getting some attention, I guess, from folks, because they started, I guess our job was to raise awareness, and we started getting some awareness from folks. And so we were invited to the State House to talk with Senator DiDomenico and educate their office about some of the work that we had been doing, especially the results of our data and our survey. And then we also testified, Mary and I, it's the one on the bottom, Mary and I went and we testified at the Ways and Means Commission or meeting to, again, educate them about the results of our survey with the lens of youth prevention. There were definitely a lot of different stakeholders in that room. It was my first experience doing something like that. So it was definitely educational for that end for me. But it was a nice experience for us to just be able to give a platform to our work in a way that we really hadn't previously. So again, we thank Senator DiDomenico's office and their willingness to engage us on this topic.
Okay, so so we're raising awareness by having posters in the community. We're talking to our legislators. We're talking to stakeholders in the community. So what's the next logical step in this day and time of social media? Social media. So we decided to launch a social media campaign using our hashtag and the PreventionACES name. We launched it in April of 2020, which was Alcohol Awareness Month. And the first thing we did is we launched a social media campaign that shared some of the responses from the adult community. So what adults thought the issue was. And this was, again, just a preliminary campaign to introduce the topic and sort of gain followers and sort of gain momentum in the discussion of this. Did I forget anything, Matt?
You're good.
All right.
All right, next up is Deanna.
Thanks. And so this issue also affects our youth and our young people. And so in June 2020, we had 2 virtual focus groups on Zoom. 12 youth in total participated from our communities. And we asked some questions like, what comes to mind when you think about small alcohol bottles or nips? And these were some of their answers. And Matt, if you could just keep pushing, yep, thank you. And as you can see, just based on what their answers are, the littered nips are affecting them, and they are making connections to what they see around in their world. And so we used some of what they said in the social media post. We gave them the hashtag in their own words, and also hashtag youth voices, and everything that's in the speech bubble are just answers that they gave in these focus groups. And we paired the youth voices with the adult community voices, and these the information for the adult community voices was taken from our summer 2019 survey. And these are just some of our analytics just to show off how well we did, how great we did. So we gained about 280, almost 300 followers. We reached 6,000 accounts. We had 350 interactions, and there were 15,000 impressions. And impressions just means that our image showed up somewhere on someone's Instagram account. Is that correct, Matt?
Yes, so impressions essentially are the number of times that our images showed up on someone's phone during that month. So 15,000 is a lot. And we just wanted to make sure we highlighted that. So thank you, Deanna. And just for future, if you want to see the full campaign, it is available on our Instagram at PreventionACES. So you will see all the images. Again, all of them were created with the youth voice or with the community voice. So we got the data from them directly, and we put together some graphics and then tested them with them and said, did we do a good job of representing this? They said, okay, maybe change this and do this because this is what we were actually thinking about. And then once we were refined, we were able to launch it. So it was a multi-step process to get some of that information out in a way that was accurate for the So some of the big recommendations, or the most common recommendations that came from the youth and the adult community members' feedback was, number one, rethinking your disposal. So this was, again, awareness campaigns, trying to get people to remind people to dispose of their products properly. So whether that means installing more barrels in places, or having a conversation at the point of sale, you know, if a liquor store is able to have that reminder and just say, hey, you know, make sure you throw this away properly. That was like probably the number one thing of just raising the awareness. So then that led to the poster campaign. We still have posters available for folks if they're interested in putting it up. So this doesn't have to be a liquor store. It can be any business. We just want to make sure that, you know, as we say, it's anywhere. It's at a lot of different places in the city. So we want to make sure that people are, you know, thinking about it and that they're actively trying to dispose of their products properly. Sticker campaign. So this was one of the suggestions that came from it. And we actually ran with this a little bit. So people had recommended that we put little stickers on top of the nip bottles and to remind people to recycle, because there is a little recycle reminder, I guess, on the bottles, but you really have to look for them to see it. And so what we did was we actually printed out, or had printed out, all of these stickers right here. And they're so small that they can fit right on the top of a nip bottle. And we are making these available to our communities. I have them all right here next to me, that we will give them to liquor stores for free to pilot and test out. Our hope is, again, they could be something at the point of sale if the liquor store feels like they will be interested in pursuing or piloting this. And again, it's just, again, another reminder to people at the point of sale to rethink your disposal. And then the other most common one that we heard was the 5-cent deposit. So, you know, this is something that we don't really have much control over on a community-based level, but it's something that I think a lot of people talked about, and especially on our social media have engaged with us about. So we wanted to make sure we highlighted kind of these top 4 recommendations, and honestly, we'll make anything available to people as much as they are willing to participate. So if you know a business, if you know a liquor store and they want to, if you think it may be a good idea for them to partner, let us know. I'll put our contact information at the end, and we will definitely get you what you need. And now I turn it over to Lovely.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. And so I know that during this project, we had a number of youth that were participating in this campaign in a variety of ways. And in just a moment, you're going to hear about their work. And so I'd love to turn it over to Maya Jacob.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maya Jacob. I'm a senior at Arlington High School and a student advisor of the Arlington Youth Health and Safety Coalition. So in the coalition, we focus a lot on substance use prevention in our own high school. So when I heard about the NIPIT project, I thought it would be a great opportunity to observe trends and analyze the effects of the younger members of our community, like middle schoolers. So we did an environmental scan and found large numbers of small alcohol bottles around fields, parks, schools, and especially around the bike path, which are all places that young people hang out around, especially with their friends. And these alcohol bottles scattered around town are exposing the youth to alcohol at a very young age and giving them the impression that alcohol is used casually and often by many members of the community. In a focus group with middle schoolers, we showed them images of alcohol, and many of them were able to recognize the brands just from seeing them around town in the places that they spend time with their friends. So this is a really important topic to discuss because these small alcohol bottles are normalizing the use of alcohol and portraying the false image that substance use is extremely prevalent in Arlington, which is not the impression that we want to give to the youth in our community.
Thank you, Maya. Appreciate you jumping on with us and giving your perspective. Next up, Deanna.
So Nadifa is our Cambridge teen representative. She was connected to this project through her involvement in Cambridge Community TV. Nadifa, I don't know if you wanted to say a few things.
Hello, my name is Melissa, and I'm from Cambridge Kindergarten School. And I involved this project from Sistivia. My supervisor was telling about that project, and it was saying like how was like she was explaining how like those things like impact people, and she was saying if I know about those. So then actually I didn't know about like those bottles. Actually, like I didn't know what is it called and all. So when she showed me like some picture of it, and I saw those in my neighborhood on all kind of thing, and it was kind of like, you know, they put it like trust in the road and everything. Sometimes I wonder like what is it and all, but I didn't actually know. And then actually in social media, my friends, like I saw them drinking, but actually I didn't wonder what is that even. And then for my friends, I know some of them is like they drink, they don't even think about it can be bad for them. So one of my friends I was talking to like that friend and telling like it might affect their body and all. The person was saying like I'm 18 and all, I can drink. But I was saying like it might affect your body, but they're like it doesn't affect. I don't know, like so those things I was kind of wondering like why do they do that? Like, they have to think about their body and all. So.
Thank you, Nadifa.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Nadifa, actually, as part of our alcohol awareness campaign in this past April, submitted a video that was featured on our social media platforms, which I'm going to be able to play for you guys now. So give me 1 second. I have to switch screens.
high school junior in Cambridge. I see nips in my neighborhood, but I never seen any of them outside of my school. I know people at school drink them because they record themselves drinking and posting in a social media. Although I never drink in my life, I know that my peers do. I think nips make drinking looks more fun because they cost less. I know that teenagers are able to get nips easily if they know any at all.
So that was just a brief video that Ndifa recorded for us, and we very much appreciate you doing that. And I think the cool thing about the videos that we had gotten was that it was just all organic. These were just youth, some of the youth we hadn't worked with, some of the youth we had worked with, and their opinions were put in video format, and they hit across many different platforms, many different areas. And it was interesting to see the data that we were collecting from adults and community and other youth members were also adding up or matching some of the videos that were submitted. So thank you again, Ndifa. We very much appreciate your participation. All right, and Jamie?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to just briefly introduce Elisa Ovalle, who joined TISA during her senior year, a little bit later than many young people got, but no less involved, and absolutely was instrumental in the work that we did in the data collection and then some of the community outreach. And Elisa is now a student at Bunker Hill Community College, has stayed connected with TISA even after graduating, and we're excited to have her join us today.
Hi, everybody. So as Jamie says, I'm a sophomore at Bunker Hill Community College. And basically, I helped with the
I think you cut out a little bit there.
started noticing that a lot of there was a lot of nips around. Like I saw like a couple, but I never really paid attention to them because
for every major
especially like as a
scientific
senior,
breakthrough, there was a time before it.
especially as
A
a
time
senior,
when
I
the
kind
world
of
was
just
one way,
it's
and
okay.
then
There we go.
I kind of was like focused on like going to school. Like I kind of the best way I could describe it is I was on autopilot the whole time walking to school, so I never really paid attention to them until I actively started taking pictures of them. And I'm like, oh, there's a lot of them around the high school. There's a lot of them around the park that is near the high school. So I was just like, oh, the more I started taking pictures, the more I'm like, they're everywhere. How do people not pick them up or like see them? And it's like, I didn't have any peers that like drank or were influenced by it, but I can definitely see how just being like exposed to them on your way to school, especially like areas with like, I remember I didn't have like, the best way to describe it is like, so we as TISA, we all had different like areas around us that we could take pictures of, like around the school, of course, but there were other places around Everett that were littered with nip bottles. And a lot of them weren't even around high schools, they're around like elementary schools, which is just shocking. Like you have a little elementary kid knowing what a Fireball, like what Fireball tequila is, or like knowing what all of these like brands are, which is not supposed to, it's not supposed to happen. Like kids are supposed to have their innocence and not really be exposed to things like this at such a young age. Because once they start seeing it around everywhere, they're like, oh, I can drink that. It looks like everyone's doing it, so let me do it. It's like that kind of mentality. And then on top of that, I also helped passing out the posters for liquor stores to like put up on their doors. And when I would talk to the store owners, they would be like, yeah, there is like nips are definitely a big problem. Like they themselves even realize how big of a problem it is. And some of them had also taken, I think it was one of the liquor stores on Broadway, I forget the name, but I know when I went in there to talk with the owner, she told me that she had already started doing her own initiative to curb people from like littering those nip bottles. And she was on board with it right away. She's like, thank you for giving me these, because like I have my own and I oftentimes have to fill them, but like to put more out. And like she also mentioned that she was glad that there was more language options, because the ones that she had were just purely in like English and I guess, and sometimes in Portuguese, but never in like Haitian Creole. So that was like a lot of the ones that she took from me. And personally, through getting involved in this initiative, I realized that A, NIPS are a big problem. B, it also kind of helps put more of a perspective on why some high schoolers are readily available to just start drinking, not only through having like an adult that's able to purchase it for them, but a lot of the
You cut out again there. Oh, I think you're back. Try now. No.
All right,
Maybe
can
try.
anybody hear me?
There you go.
Mhm.
Okay, awesome, perfect.
Yeah.
That's great. But back to what I was talking about before I got interrupted. It's like a lot of the liquor stores I had went into, their nips were still like readily available for people to just grab them. So if someone wanted to steal a nip bottle, it was kind of easy. They hadn't moved all of them behind the counter just yet.
All right. Well, thank you. Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
do you have anything else? Sorry.
Yeah, I do. My bad.
Go
I
for
just
it.
kind of paused. But mine is that aspect. I think having people like bringing awareness to it, I was so glad to hear how far like the NIPS initiative had gone, because I really don't like littering in general, regardless of what it is. So to have like these bottles picked, like not littering our communities anymore, and just having kids and teenagers just see them all around and be like, okay, I can get this. This is really easy to like get and drink. I think it's definitely a good positive overall.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your perspective. And I know you've been someone who's been involved over the number of years, so it's glad to have you back to be able to speak to it now as we present it to everybody. And then we have one final youth presentation. I'll turn it over to Lovely.
Yes, thanks, Matt. Up next is one of our very talented Somerville Positive Forces youth leaders who played a special role to help raise awareness around this issue using media. Please welcome Shreya.
I'm Shreya Masiazu, and I am a Somerville Positive Forces SPF 100 youth leader. SPF 100 are a group of high school youth that work to reduce issues in our community related to substance abuse and underage drinking. I've been part of this work for over a year now. I got involved in the NIPS campaign because I felt this topic was extremely important and really needed to be addressed in our community. I think the topics about NIPS is important is because while NIPS seem like such a small deal with little problems, it can actually have a lot of consequences. Having NIPS around can encourage young children to use alcohol and can cause harmful effects on our environment due to their fast use. I hope that from my video, many people will be able to understand that NIPS can be dangerous in our community and spark change in how we view and handle NIPS. Thank you.
Thank you, Shreya. And actually, you also submitted a video to our campaign, so I will pull that up now. This time I'll remember to exit out and not have it play after the fact.
NIPS are everywhere. Sidewalks in every neighborhood have NIPS. In small parks, there might be NIPS as children walk around. NIPS are extremely harmful to a child's well-being. The more young children see NIPS, the more they normalize it. Children might think, these are everywhere, and if adults can have them, why can't I? Moreover, NIPS are harmful to the environment. As they are tiny, many use them and throw them away moments after buying. The plastic used can never be decomposed. To help stop the harm NIPS do, we should create NIPS cleanup initiatives. We should also contact our local representative to try to talk about the harms NIPS do and create fees for throwing NIPS. Thank you.
Right. So again, another just short clip brought to you by our youth. highlighting their skills in presenting this information in a more tech-based world that we live in. Having gone through this, we learned a lot about social media and how to use these platforms, and it really was led by the youth, because without their input, I think we would probably not been able to launch any initiative, especially on the social media aspect. So thank you very much, guys. I'll turn it back over to Lovely.
Okay, and so next up we have our adult community members who have been engaged in working on different aspects of the small alcohol bottles issue in the communities and towns that we live in. And so first we have Arlington.
Hi, thank you for inviting me to be here today. I'm the Arlington Recycling Coordinator at Public Works, and I have not had, I've learned so much just from being here for this first time. The insights of the youth are certainly what we should be listening to. And I know in our field of recycling, that litter prevention and waste diversion have concerned themselves with NIPS bottles, in particular around redemption. So bottle redemption programs are like bottle bill programs, the 5-cent deposit that soda cans, for example, have. So I don't have a slide show to share right now, so I'll just talk to you if you can see my screen. I wanted to just point out a few things. First of all, our recycling is mixed together, and when it gets sorted back out into the different types, NIPS bottles would theoretically be plastic and go into a plastic stream. So you'd take your recycle bin with everything, you'd sort of back out, and plastic would go with plastic and metal would go with metal. But I was surprised to hear that you're labeling recycling on top of NIPS bottles, because unfortunately, in Arlington and in other communities in the area, they would be considered trash. They're too small to recycle. So I can share my screen for a minute if you want to give me.
I think you can share it now.
My screen up. I'm not going to be as efficient as all of you. You all are very efficient with your screen.
Try it now.
I'll try and do it quickly. But my name came up quickly and I didn't have the right screen up. So we in Arlington are part of the Recycle Smart program. And that is a statewide effort to have recycling be less confusing to people. And this is what the program looks like at its website, or recyclesmartma.org. And it's a fabulous collaboration with Mass Department of Environmental Protection and the material sorting facilities that sort that material back out into the different streams. If you search in this bottle, in this field here, you can see that it's going to clearly give you, hold on, okay, here we go. Let's try again. You can sort all kinds of different materials, and NIPS bottles, miniature liquor bottles, come up as a trash item. And that's really specifically because of the size. Anything smaller than a credit card is too small to sort. And so if you can't sort recycling, you can't sell it. And if you can't sell it, there's nothing that can be made from it. So it's not really recyclable. So the one thing that came to my attention with the earlier part of the presentation is that you really want to check in with your municipalities about whether these bottles are recyclable. I do know that Everett, Somerville, and Cambridge are all also part of the Recycle Smart program. So in those communities, they would also not be able to recycle them. So that's really unfortunate. But that's where the I'll stop sharing now. That's where the beauty of the idea of a 5-cent deposit comes in. Because like soda cans, where we have to, we can turn them in for a 5-cent deposit, that is a really known positive effort to reduce litter. And so I would strongly suggest that that everyone who can advocate for including these little bottles in the 5-cent deposit program, because when you collect things by themselves, then they can be sold by themselves just as plastic bottles, and then they can be remade into something else, and that's the true recycling process. So including 5-cent deposits on nip bottles would be a fantastic strategy from a municipal perspective to get these bottles actually recycled and to motivate people to collect them on their own. Doesn't solve all the other problems you guys are talking about, and I have a lot of respect for this tough problem, but I appreciate you considering the municipal perspective and inviting me to talk today.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I think that's it's something we've heard from many stakeholders about, like the logistics of it all. And I think we're hoping that some of our community-based strategies can help to address it maybe in a person-centered way, a way that, people can do it pretty easily. But there's a lot of other things that need to be worked out for sure to make sure that we have this be something that can be sustainable going forward. So very much appreciate that.
Great, and now I have the pleasure of introducing Michael Weiner of Save More Liquors, who has been a very active and supportive member of our SCAP coalition for many years. Tonight, he would like to share his experiences related to liquor store engagement around this issue. Please welcome Michael Weiner.
Hi, my name is Michael Weiner. I am a third generation family ownership and liquor store business, along with my cousins. I grew up in the business, working first in the bottle room and sorting empties as a teenager, back before there were any machines. So I got very sticky, very wet, very disgusting, and very smelly very often. I've been in my current role here at Save More since about 2002. And since then, I've been working with groups such as the Cambridge Prevention Coalition, the Cambridge Licensees Advisory Board. Part of being on CPC, I was able to help craft a policy that ensured responsible use of kegs. As a member of CLAB, it's been my honor to be a chair of the annual Taste of Cambridge. The event raises monies for organizations that help to prohibit, the sales to minors, reduce instances of alcohol use among minors, and responsible use in adults. And I believe in the phrase responsible retailer. As a responsible retailer, it's our job to join with the communities we serve to find ways about educating the residents and our customers about how they can be accountable alcohol consumers on every level, from their consumption to properly disposing of their containers. We firmly believe that that nips are not a thing that we want to see all over the place. The Massachusetts Package Store Association, of which we're a member, is a nonprofit trade organization that represents thousands of independently owned retail stores in Massachusetts. And their objective is to sustain within the membership the preservation of the Commonwealth's three-tier system. In the three-tier system in Massachusetts, we have retailers, we have wholesalers, and we have the consumer. So the consumer has to get something from a retailer, and the retailer has to buy it from a wholesaler. And the wholesalers get their products from a supplier. So there's a whole lot of buy-in and a whole lot of change that has to happen in order to make this work. There's going to be a lot of people at a lot of different levels that are going to need to work on this to make whatever solution comes up viable. We currently have bottle return machines, which are set to be able to automatically take large bottles. However, they're not rated for these small ones yet. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't be, and it doesn't mean that they won't be, but it means that we have to think real globally about how that's going to impact your local person because if they have to purchase a special machine to be able to do that, it makes a big difference. I really am very much in favor of something that is not a ban. I found that most times when something gets banned, it creates a black market for it. It creates almost a coolness around wanting to get it, wanting to find it, wanting to know where they can do something with it. And if we reduce the smallest size, then the next smallest size becomes the smallest size. And you know, one of our major jobs as retailers is to make sure that the people that come into our business are capable of making those positive, those good decisions about what they're purchasing. We don't sell, you know, giant jugs of juice for people to just drink and have a giant party with friends. We're very much feel that alcohol is something to be enjoyed together socially and not abused. And we want to make sure that that continues with this. And I think that just completely getting rid of the smallest size takes away an option for people who are having difficulty coping with making their own decisions from saying, I'm only going to have one drink today. Anyone who's ever tried to lose weight, anyone who's ever tried to quit anything, smoking, they've always stepped down. And there's a number of people who I know who personally who've been able to reduce their intake because they limit themselves. So if we say only one per day, and then they go, well, you know, it's a pretty big slice of cake today. I only had one slice of cake, but it's a much bigger slice of cake than I'm usually used to. So I think that there are ways to do it. And I just want to say that I'm really thankful to have a great group of people who understand that retailers aren't the enemy, that retailers can work together to make this work. And I'm happy to keep helping and love to see everybody coming in and stickering everything in the store and putting up more signs.
Yeah, and I just want to say I appreciate Save More, and I think when we had our meeting way back now, it seems like forever ago, in Somerville, you know, we met with liquor stores like Save More, and I think Colleen from Roby's Liquor is on here. Hello, Colleen. But you know, we really took your feedback and we applied it to our strategies that we recommended. So I think you guys all being involved in it from the beginning has been very helpful for us. And you know, I think, like you're saying, we want to find sustainable strategies here. And I think our hope is that what we can do on a community level, you know, we're not the elected officials or anything like that. So that stuff's out of our control, but we want to see what we can do to support everybody at a community level. And that means everybody. That doesn't mean just this individual or just this individual. It's, you know, a community effort. And a lot of these strategies involve or have to involve everybody for it to work. And it's going to take time. It's going to take effort, but that was part of the reason why we wanted to start talking about this in a very organized fashion. So we appreciate the liquor stores definitely for your willingness to collaborate with us. And hopefully we can do some more as we go back to normal at some point, hopefully in the next whenever.
Of course we will.
But appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Thank you for having me.
All right, next up.
Hi, I'm Ben Cabrera, living in Somerville. Thank you, Matt, for this opportunity. I've participated in collecting nips around Somerville after meeting Matt at a booth he was stationing at a community event earlier. I was inspired to contribute based on the youth exposure in addition to the environmental impact. I think we can view this as a problem for community perception, looking around, but also the impacts that we don't immediately see with our eyes from the environmental perspective. That, you know, even if picking up some of these bottles, it won't have larger implications. I think it will. I think it will, and hopefully, as my involvement goes, maybe has improved feeling around the community. We don't see these bottles as often if we pick them up, perhaps. So my experience and what I've done is just I had a hobby of going around jogging in Somerville, and so I would just pick up the bottles. And I haven't been doing this with the pandemic as much, but initially, I would just go through my regular running route for the fun of that, and would have a big bag, collect the bottles that I would see, and they're a great variety. And by having a GPS route of the running activity, I was able to map and then submit the maps and the locations of the bottles to Matt through the Somerville office for the program and contribute. So I was inspired there to contribute data to looking at where they are and taking into account the youth exposure for these different areas where they're found for all the reasons that we've been discussing in this meeting. And it's been a good experience. And I appreciate the opportunity to promote community engagement and participate actively, and hopefully we'll solve this problem and also maybe take this as a model for further forms of engagement and environmental considerations, but also the multifaceted nature of this that we've discussed.
Thank you, Ben. And I think Ben is, for his participation, it hasn't been just with the nip bottles, but he actually created his own Instagram at Picking Up Pics. And he actually featured some other littered stuff on there that should get some more attention. So I believe it was like, the floss picks. I think there were straws in there too, and other plastics that we see littered around that, we should be doing something about it as well. Not usually under our purview because we're more in the substance world than some of the other stuff that were mentioned, but it was pretty cool to see a spin-off, of some of the work we're doing. So we appreciate that. And Ben, you were pretty instrumental in helping get a lot of those early submissions onto the page. So keep up the good work.
Program. Pleasure to participate.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we want to say thank you to all of our community presenters for sharing their unique experiences and work on this important topic. Now we'd like to take a moment to share our gratitude for the outstanding and extraordinary efforts by some individuals and agencies to support this work over the last few years. First, we want to give a huge shout out to our social media coordinator, Nikayla Lampkins, for creating such engaging content for this campaign. Nikayla worked diligently over the last year to compile feedback and put her creative skills to work. The colorful and informative posts she designed helped reach so many community members across our 4 cities and towns. And we are tremendously grateful for all your hard work, Nikayla. Thank you. Next, we'd like to give a great big thanks to the 120 plus youth who worked on this initiative over the last few years. These amazing young leaders helped us every step of the way by conducting environmental scans, partaking in community stakeholder surveys, helping with the design and distribution of liquor store posters, participating in focus groups, and creating videos and posts to raise awareness through social media. We'd like to give a special shout out to each of the youth leadership groups involved in this work. Somerville Positive Forces, TISA, Arlington Youth Health and Safety Coalition, and Cambridge Community Television. Thank you again for all your hard work. Now we'd like to share our gratitude with State Senator Sal DiDomenico for his commitment to solving this problem of small alcohol bottle littering on a state level and for all his support on our local efforts. We know that together we can and will make a difference. Thank you for your continued support, Senator. Next, we'd like to extend a great big thanks to Ben Capraro for helping to highlight the magnitude of this problem in our communities by routinely adding to our environmental scans with photos of nips littered throughout our neighborhoods. Dozens of his photos are posted on our PreventionACES Instagram page, which helps to raise awareness around this issue. I invite you all to check it out. Ben, we are tremendously grateful for your commitment and diligence. Thank you. Next, we have Zia, who is the Youth and Immersive Media Art Manager at the Cambridge Community Television. She was instrumental in recruiting teens from her program to enter a video contest. Zia, thank you for your help engaging talented youth in this work. All the videos look amazing. Thank you. Next up, we want to acknowledge Nick Charask for his tremendous leadership and expertise around this project. Our team is deeply grateful for Nick's guidance on this and other SAPC projects over the years. Nick, please accept our most sincere thanks for all your support and leadership. Last but not least, we want to share our sincere gratitude to the Department of Public Health and the Bureau of Substance Abuse Services for the funding which supports our four-city substance abuse prevention collaborative, allowing us to come together to do this and other important prevention initiatives. We are deeply grateful. Thank you. That's all I have. Thanks again. We want to thank all of our awardees and each of you here tonight for your time and attention on this issue related to small alcohol bottle littering. Now I'll turn it back over to Matt.
Thank you, Lovely. So I just want to say again, thank you to everybody involved. I know that it's been a topic of discussion for a lot of different people, and there have been different feelings about it, but our efforts were always based in the community, are still going to be continue to be based in the community, and how we can gather together as a group to problem solve and address it. And I think although, we powered through, we definitely were impacted a little bit by COVID-19, not being able to, be seeing you guys in person or maybe doing as much as we like, but we tried to power through and do what we could. And we really appreciate any feedback, any partnerships, any collaboration. You can always contact us at, whatever respective cities or towns you're in. And we want to keep this forward. We don't want this conversation to end. And we want to make sure we figure out a way how we can come up with solutions that work for everyone and, compromise where compromise can happen, but also find ways to make sure that we're prioritizing the youth prevention aspect. And, I think there's a lot of work that we do around how youth exposure or normalization or those types of topics can relate to youth. And it may not be something that we can see all the time or see a direct causation, or, there may be a correlation, not a causation. But, we just want to make sure that we're doing what we can to prevent any unnecessary exposure to youth in the community. And that's really the basis of our work. So with that, that brings us to the end of our event. I think we're ending a little bit early. If anyone has any questions, I think you can submit it in the chat now, and I can try and shout them out for you. If not, we are happy to end early and probably get people out to the rest of their nights. But ACES folks, do you guys have anything else that you'd like to say before we wrap up? No? All right. All right. Cool. All right. So without that, I think I'll wrap it up. I'll thank you guys again for attending. We'll keep this conversation going as much as possible, and we look forward to continuing to talk to you guys going forward. So have a good night and take care.